Good morning, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dean. I'm going to be presenting today encryption. There's two main types of encryption, symmetric and asymmetric. Symmetric is where the sender and the receiver have the same key to encrypt and decrypt the information. The sender will send plain text, data, image, things like that, encrypt it using this key, send it over as ciphertext to the receiver, where the receiver then uses the same key to decrypt the information. Asymmetric is where there are two separate keys. There's a public key and a private key. The sender will use the public key to encrypt the information, which is different from the private key. Again, with the plain text, using the public key to encrypt it into the ciphertext, which is then sent to the recipient, who then uses the private key to decrypt the information. The only downfall with this is that the sender can't decrypt his own information after he encrypts it with the public key because he doesn't have a private key. What's the difference between the two besides the obvious of there being two separate kinds of keys? First off, the speed. The asymmetric algorithm takes much longer to encrypt and decrypt than the symmetric algorithm. The other difference is key management. In symmetric, there's two different keys, so you need to be able to distribute those keys efficiently and securely, and as often as possible so that if it is cracked, you won't have a security breach. With that in mind, asymmetric, like I said, is slower, so you can use a combination called a hybrid crypto system, in which you use an asymmetric key system to distribute the symmetric keys. That way, you have a secure way to distribute the same keys throughout your communication web and still have it be secure. And then use the faster version of symmetric key encryption. What's a key and how is it used? A key is a long sequence of bits, zeros and ones, that's then used mathematically to encrypt and decrypt. There's all kinds of ciphers out there and different ways to use the bits. I'm not going to go too in depth in that because simply wouldn't have the time. You may have heard of different encryption key lengths, like 40-bit, 32, 126, and like, what does all this mean? It's basically the number of bits that are in a key. With n being the number of bits, it takes 2 to the n power attempts to brute force attack, which is where you try every combination of bits until you think you have the correct one. The old SSL, which is secure hypertext transfer protocol, like when you access your bank account, it uses HTTPS, which is a secure form of transfer protocol. The old standard was 40-bit encryption, which this gigantic number here in the quadrillions may seem like a lot of combinations to go through, but in reality, with modern-day computing power, it can take a matter of hours to days. So now the new standard is 128. 128 has 88 more bits than 40, so you have to try a this huge astronomical number here, more attempts than the quadrillion. So that's more than a trillion times a trillion right there. So I don't even know like what the prefix of that is. It's so big. It's estimated that if a hacker were to try to brute force the 128-bit encryption, it would take them a trillion years to quantitate computing power. Many of us use encryption in everyday life, and we don't even think about it. Those of us that have Vista or Mac OS 10 or above, they have a program for full disk encryption. You transfer files over the internet, there's email, all kinds of stuff like that. Wireless, you have your MAC addresses and things like that, that's also a type of encryption. ATMs, DRM, which is digital rights management, which is used by a lot of copyright companies for CDs, DVDs, etc. That's a popular form of encryption that we see every day today. And of course, the internet in the past vast field of encryption. You have email, you have VPNs, you have SSL, you have SSH, which are secure shells which we use to access the lab computers here when we're programming our projects off campus. We use SSH secure shell to encrypt our data over here so that we can understand. SSL, like I said before, when you're accessing a bank account or other secure information, they use that secure 128-bit encrypted key to transfer all your data. And the list goes on and on. If I could list all of them, I would spend 15 minutes here just listing and listing. Prohibitions and restrictions. One thing I came across is that a lot of places don't allow or really restrict how much encryption you can use domestically as a citizen of that country. France had really tight restrictions until about 1999 when they changed the laws to free use. Places such as China, Iraq, Iran, Kazakhstan, and surprisingly the list goes on, but you have to actually own a license to use any form of encryption. That kind of blew my mind there, that you don't have as much security as you could. Another thing is in 1998, Bill Clinton signed the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA. This prohibited and criminalized the use of cryptoanalytic techniques, which is basically how you decode ciphers and keys, in order to bypass the DRM. One big downfall is that this really restricted the cryptoanalytic research field, as any research done could be argued that is violating this act. So research has really slowed down after this act was passed. There hasn't been any really big mainstream cases against people who have done some research against this, but yeah, it's really slowed down research. Exportation of cryptography. After World War II, after the big impact of the Enigma for the Germans and cracking that and all the kinds of steps we had to go through for wars and things, it's been a big factor in times of war and things like that, encryption and decryption. It was actually legally defined as munition because of the impact that it had during the war. In 1999, the source code, if you have an open source encryption program that you want to post on the internet, there was a big case against this guy that had posted it online, and the government was like, well, you can't just go posting this big encryption thing on the internet because then anybody can get it. He actually brought it to the Supreme Court and won that it was a violation of the First Amendment, or free speech. So, I have that. There is this thing called Bureau of Industry and Security that if you're going to post open source encryptions, they need to be notified. It doesn't need to go under review or be approved or anything like that. They do have to be notified that you're posting there and where so that they can check up on it if they need to. If you're going to mass distribute an encryption software that is greater than 64-bit encryption, it has to go through the Bureau, and this actually has to be reviewed and approved to be sold internationally. Vulnerability of full distribution. As I said before, if you're using Vista and you have BitLocker or TrueCrypt or any of these encryption programs out there, there are vulnerabilities. For one, it can be brute force attacks, which is where you just simply guess every type of combination of bits for the key. It might not be the most effective way, but it is possible. Another way is this cold boot attack. What you see in this picture here is a frozen piece of RAM. The cold in cold boot attack literally means cold. As some of you may have heard or learned, is that when you turn off your computer, your RAM is erased. In reality, it fades over time. Over time, bits flip back to ones and zeros.